Alrighty, so all of our speakers so far have been within the Qzx community, and that's the same is true here right now. A lot of you already know Jeannie, and some things you may not know about her is if I had to describe one word of who she is, I would say a survivor. Maybe even add amazing survivor on top of that. This person has so much background and wealth. I mean, if you talk to her only about your business, you're missing out on a lot of the other kind of lessons and stuff that she could share with you. So, cancer survivor. That's just the beginning. I won't get into it now, but sometime you might want to ask her how she raised her kids. It's just phenomenal what she's done over her life. So we'll save that for another time, but welcome.
Okay, am I on? Is it good? Is this better? Okay, we'll go with better. Well, thank you, Chris. I appreciate it. I actually met Chris in March at the Marketing Mayhem event in Orlando, Florida. And I'd gone down to see some friends and hang out. And I saw him. I bought Paper Call Ninja years ago. And I'd used some of the tactics in my business. And I saw him. I went, oh, my God, that's Chris Winters. I think it's Chris Winters. And so I almost attacked him in the hallway, and I think I scared him. I said, you are just as cute in person as you are on Facebook. You know, and he went. So anyway, we've gotten to know each other a little bit, and I certainly do appreciate everything he's done to help me in my business and to help me be a better communicator online. Like, don't bug me when it's 9 o'clock at night in Spain, that sort of thing. Learn from me, he said. So I want to tell you first how I got here, kind of where I'm at now, and then I'm going to go back and give you my recommendations, okay? So, let's see. I think we will bring this up. There we are. So, who is Jean Kalinda? Some of you know me, some of you don't. I was on a couple coaching calls with Chris. But I'm first of all a wife, and I think some of you met my husband, and he'll be at dinner tonight. He is the love of my life. We've been married 27 years, I think. I'm a mother of some fabulous kids, and I'm a grandmother to 6 little people, ranging from 5 to 16. And I've always been an entrepreneur. I'm certifiably unemployable. Just isn't going to happen for me to work for anybody else. If I had to live in a tent, I'm not doing it. So I get fired in about 5 minutes. I have owned an automated voicemail system called InTouch Solutions. I own a voice over IP switch. I've done that for 24 years. Before it was voice over IP, I had a Robbit T1, if any of you know what that is. Somebody knows? Okay, all right. And that business still pays my bills. I haven't paid much attention to it because it kind of rocks on, which is wonderful. But, and I'll tell you how that came to be a little later, and how you can take that same principle and use it in your own lives and business. My husband and I are both entertainers. I'm a country singer. And my husband is a blues harmonica player. So he has his harmonicas with him, but we haven't yet found a place here to go that may let him gig with them. So anyway, we do have a lot of fun on the weekends. We're lovers of motorcycles and RV travel, and that's my BMW R1200 that I saw James Bond ride in Tomorrow Never Dies and said, I've got to have that bike. And I bought it on eBay. So there you go. So I'm a published author. I most recently got published in Joel Comm's book, So What Do You Do Now? So, yeah, so what do you do? Not now, just what do you do? Okay, I gotta see if I can find these. Oh, you know what? It's because I don't have the slideshow on. Hold on a minute. From the beginning. How about this? Ah, is that better? Okay. Now, that was me 39 years ago. And where's the gal from Calgary? Yeah, I said, you will love this. Yeah, so I've always been wide open. I was a barrel racer, of all things. And that's me. 7 years after that, had an accident, running figure eights up and down the hill with no saddle. Coon dogs came out of the woods, the horse spooked, and I went tumbling. And I hurt my leg pretty badly, and so I had to quit that. But I just thought you would appreciate that. So let's talk about where I am now with my home services directories, because I know some of you have reached out on Facebook and you want to know what I did and why, and I'll give you my opinion about this later. But home services is a $630 billion industry, and I took that slide 2 years ago, so no telling what it is now, but it's huge. And who's in this home service industry? Angie's List, Home Advisor, Thumbtack. Now Amazon has jumped in, and I've heard that on the West Coast, Google has jumped into it. So it's a real popular thing to do. But I looked at why are consumers dissatisfied with these national sites. Well, there's too many businesses listed for one service. My sites on my home service directory only has one business per category. And the sites, these national sites, they're not local to the area. So maybe they don't know that it's hurricane season, and maybe we're going to need some water restoration damage people more than ever because we're underwater in our area. They don't know that. But me, as a local marketer, I know these things. We can work with the water restoration people, get coupons going. You know, they can't move that quickly, but I can. And they offer no direct communication to the provider, which just frustrates the snot out of the providers. Just ask any service, any business that's using Home Advisor, well, how you like that? We don't. Okay, well, I got a better solution for you. Now, our answer to this, and just to clear this up, I started this home directory service 6 years ago. I did not know about pay-per-call. I did not know about Chris Winters. I didn't know anything. I barely knew what WordPress was. And so this was just an idea that I had, and I didn't know it was called the landlord model. I'd never heard of rank and rent. I didn't know. I just thought this would be a cool thing to do. So this is what I did. But in my model, each type of business has a leased site. So I found a directory theme. I built MyrtleBeachHomeservices.com. I bought every niche domain I could think of, which, you know, Chris tells us now don't do that, just use kind of a brand. But I didn't know any better, so I bought it. Myrtle Beach Pest Control, Myrtle Beach Plumbing.com, Myrtle Beach Roofer.com, blah, 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 blah. I bought everything I could find, and it was all available because nobody had thought of this before, I guess. So each business had a tracking phone number, and I got those from my own phone system at that time because I have phone numbers as inventory. Now, I think using the call-zoo numbers is better. It has more features for what we do. So don't ask me to sell you numbers for my switch because it's a bad idea. Each business had a Google My Business listing, which it was, God, it's gone through so many iterations. It was Google Local, Google Maps, Google this, Google that. Now it's Google My Business. But back then it was easy to get them ranked. You just had to, you could actually go to a mailbox store. Actually, that worked for me this year in another city. Go figure. But it was really easy to get Google to verify anything you threw at them. It's not now, I can tell you that. It is not. But back then it worked, so everybody's been verified for years now on my sites. This was a picture I took of a site that we did. That stands for Myrtle Beach Home Services Carpet Cleaning. That's what I called it. And that was when there was a 7-pack. But I took that picture after 3 months. Not even 3 months, and it was number 1. It was in the A spot. That's how easy it was to rank things back then. I could have a site ranked in 3 weeks. It just wasn't difficult. So, of course, this made sense to do. So what was in it for the business owner? Well, we created customer loyalty because we only had 1 business per category. And this was the cool thing that we did. And if you ever do a hybrid of this into your master domain model, just think about this. Inside of a community, the greatest thing I've done for these people is to create a sense of community. I gather them together like a little B&I club, only it's a home services club, and we have coffee and donuts. About every 6 weeks or so, I bring all the different people together. There's no competition because it's 1 person per niche, and they get together, and I made magnets for them, and they put them on the refrigerators of all the customers they service, and it gives all the other people's names. Oh, here you go, Mr. Customer. We're so glad you let us clean your carpet today. If you need a plumber or an air conditioning guy or a landscaper or whatever, here's a list. Just keep it on your refrigerator. So there's a copy of the magnet. It's a 4x6. I actually brought you some, and I left them in my suitcase in the in the apartment. So I thought about that after I got here. But now that phone tree, that came from my phone switch. So I don't know if you can do that with Twilio or something else or not. But it just says, you just dial the extension, and you get patched directly through to the vendor that's represented there. So now I sold a course about this, which I won't sell anymore because it's a year and a half outdated. But this slide came from when I was doing the webinar to sell the course. What kind of revenues could you expect if you're a hustler? And I just figured an average directory had 12, would have 12 on it. I have 20. I have 20 now on this. And then I figured an average fee. I charge them a flat rate. I don't do pay-per-call. I didn't know enough to do pay-per-call back then. And so I charged $4.95. So there's the recurring revenue minus some expenses. 500 of that went toward a webmaster. I was doing all the writing myself. I added a second site. Now I'm over 6 figures a year. I do it again in 2 cities, and I'm at $250,000 a year. Okay? So that worked out really well. Actually, I figured up over here what is right now. I've got 28 niches represented, and it's bringing in 259,800. Yeah. 259.8. Yeah, you get it. Yeah. Did I say that right? So that's a nice income, and of course I have a partner that I work with, and then I've still got my telephone income, so I'm okay. Things are good, and I'm pushing 66 years old, so I'm okay. But excuse me. I want to, if you want to write these down and go to them, feel free. It gives them Google juice. MyrtleBeachHomeservices.com. Just stay there 3-4 minutes, okay? If you want to crowdsource my stuff, go right ahead. Just don't bounce off, okay? ConwayHomeservices.com and that's wrong. CarolinaForestHomeservices.com. That is so wrong. I could go fix that. And let's see here. Here we go. I don't want that going out like that. All right, there we go. Now I'll go back to from the beginning. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There, Carolina Forest. Carolina Forest is a suburb. It has a Conway address, but it has like 60,000 homes in it. So we figured that was big enough for a city. So we did one there. Now, I will tell you what I did on Myrtle Beach Home Services. I've got my Core 20. I then sold them at a discount the ability to be on the Conway and the Carolina Forest. And so I don't make as much on those second and third one, but it still all adds up to that $259. So, and there are some that are unique to Conway and Carolina Forest, but a lot of them are crossover from Myrtle Beach because you just can't see any dividing lines between. It's called the Grand Strand. You know, it's like 60 miles of beach, and it goes inland a little bit. So, so there is being conservative. You know, I told you what the Hustler could do. And then here was being conservative. I figured somebody could take in about $167,000 a year. Now, is your city big enough? People are always asking this. Myrtle Beach has less than 38,000 people in it on a good day. Now, the tourists swell it up, you know, 100,000 in the summer, but we just hold our breath and wait for them to go home. And our county seat, which is Conway, has less than 20,000 people in it. There's a city 40 miles away that I didn't even tell you about. It has 15,000. I think we're bringing 3,000 or 4,000 in from them that I didn't even add in that. There's a city across the state that has 70,000. So even with county populations, not one of these places has even close to 200,000 in it. And this is why we've been talking a lot on the Facebook group about ranking in smaller cities first. You've got to make sure you've got some competition in those cities to give to the next guy if the first guy flakes out. But I think it's a fertile ground to go for. It has been for me. Now I want to stop here and tell you that all this is nice. Well, maybe I'm going to get to it over here. Well, let me finish here. Home services, business directories, marketing services, real estate services, event services, wedding services, automobile services, personal services. You know, hair salons, tanning, whatever. Could be anything. Those ones that are underlined, I have also done those, which I did include in the figures, because they don't bring in as much money. Here's an example of the marketing services that I did in Myrtle Beach. We have on here the local search marketing, that was me, the direct mail guy, the video marketing guy, and there's promotional items, and you know, it's not a real big site, and mainly I use this to draw business for all of us, and then I get free stuff from them, and I might do something for it. This is more of a barter site than anything, and it's really cool. And I did it with restaurants one time. I got just thousands of dollars worth of free food. That was really cool. So, oh, I didn't mean. Here's an example of a Craigslist ad that we use for a plumber. And I do use Craigslist to drive traffic. There's one for roofing. There's one for the electrician. And so with that, I want to stop this talk about directories because I want to let you ask a few questions, and I want to tell you why I don't pursue this any longer. I'm not going to give the money back. I'm not going to stop doing what I'm doing. I did give part of it away to my partner, who is not my partner anymore. She's still a very good friend. I talk to her almost every day. She's watching things while I'm gone. But we don't share money anymore. It's less frustrating this way. And it was just the right thing to do for both of us. So people said I was nuts because I gave way more than I kept, but sometimes it's the right thing to do. So what I'm doing now is I'm following the master domain, Chris Winter's Qzx model. I have my niche picked out, and whoever said yesterday you take forever and just get stuck and paralysis and analysis paralysis, I did that. And I kept calling Stephen Lloyd, because I've known Stephen for years. Stephen, what do you think about? And he said, Jeannie, just get off the dime. Do something. Okay. So then I emailed Deb, you know, Chris's fabulous gal, support. And well, does anybody have this niche? And everyone I selected, she said no. And then I would just go on and look for another one, you know. So anyway, I got my niche selected, and I'm in the process of going through the course again and really looking at it. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in there, you know? And I'm not a terribly techie person. I'm more of a people person. So if Chris had a module in there that said, now go have a persuasive personality and get this done, I would be all over that, and I'd have it done. But there's a lot of technical things. Along the way, I've picked up some outsourcers that have been with me for years, and I'm very happy to say that they've stayed with me and we work together, and I love them. But I've got a really good webmaster and tech guy, and I have some part-time writers. And I have actually another VA that Sue and my ex-partner, Sue and I share. So, and she uses my guy and I use her gal. You know, like I said, we're still really good friends. So I need what Stephen Lloyd showed you yesterday of the GM. Well, I'm the GM and I ought not to be. So I'm working toward replacing myself. Now, the reason I showed you this is because, number one, so many of you have asked. But the second reason I showed you this is to tell you why this is not a good idea as a long-term plan. Because this will make you well-to-do. I mean, I make more than most women I know, and more than most men I know. But it will never create real wealth. There's too much work involved. I cannot scale this the way that we can scale with the master domain model. So I'm encouraging you, if you like this and if you want to try some of this, look at it as an alternate revenue that you could generate kind of quickly, but let it be that while you're in the background building the real wealth, which is the master domain model. Does everybody get that? Can we have a hand for Chris? Okay, does everybody get what I said? Anybody misunderstand me?
Very clear.
All right.
Sorry, Jeannie, could that not be sort of master domain to
Okay, you're asking, can you combine what I've shown you with a master? If you can figure it out, go for it. I know there were some ideas that Chris had on the call, and I've heard him talk about it before. To me, for me, it has seemed like two separate things. Maybe it's because I'm so deeply entrenched in this. I have wanted to leave this alone and just totally do something different. If you can find a way to do a hybrid and not lose track.
Because the directory service that's up now called Zoom is similar to that. It's just that that's for multiple niches and the one that's there is single.
I'm sure there's a way to do it. I'm just not smart enough to figure it out. I'll put it that way. So when some of y'all figure it out, then I want to hear what has to be said about that. I really do. I'm not being a smart ass. I really want to know. But I don't have time to figure it out, nor do I have the inclination to do it right now. Mm-hmm.
Did you have any problem getting the 500 a month because with local business?
I'll repeat that. I'll repeat it. Did I have any trouble getting the 500 a month? Actually, 6 years ago, I was getting $2.97. And when I realized how good I was and how well this worked, and when people were saying things like, gosh, all my traffic's coming from your phone number, I realized this is worth more. And so I bumped the price up. I kind of turned the heat up a little by little. And then if we got any new vendors, it was $4.95 out of the gate. And I think that's a steal. And I don't differentiate in niches that have big tickets like roofers and handyman. They're all $4.95. To me, it was easier. I'm not a real detailed person. I'm up here somewhere, and I did not want to do that down there and count things. So I said, this is easy. Now, if you are inclined to be a good bean counter, go for it. But whatever works. My first entrance into this was $1. And I just called everybody I knew. Hey, I got something really cool for you. Go here, go here. See that buy button? It's only going to cost you $1. Get signed up and watch what happens. They did. I had that thing filled up in a week. So, but that's me.
Yeah, I could see some problems with it in cities that you don't know. Like local businesses, you've got some of them that are very progressive, and the vast majority of them are happy doing what they're doing. So trying to convince some to take a flat rate, it obviously can work, but
it can work. And again, some of it was my personality and my long-term, my longevity in the community. There's different circumstances, but I think you could stick me in the middle of Chicago and I could do this.
Yeah,
I really
agree.
do.
I'd agree.
Because, people are just people. Anybody else got a question? Good. Then, we're going to talk about some other stuff. It's really more fun. I don't know what's next, but... Okay, that was my slide. I should have shown you while I was telling you why Qzx model is better. Like I said, to me it's a short-term fix. It's a good fix, but it's not going to create the kind of wealth I need to happen quickly. And I'll tell you why that's such an urgent thing for me in a little bit. Okay. Why not do this? Here was another slide I should have shown you. My home services, 28 different niches to learn about, 28 different sets of content to write and rewrite, 28 sets of citations, 28 of everything. With master domain, you have one niche to learn the pricing and the thinking and the products and the content's all related. Do you see the beauty of that? I'm a halfway expert on 28 niches now. So maybe that's why it was so hard for me to pick one when it came time to the master domain. Okay, personal steps to success. I told Chris we would do half mindset and inspiration and half business stuff. So I finished with the half business stuff. And he said I had an hour and I've done 30 minutes. So this is working out really well. So it may look to you like I've lived a charmed life. That is not true. Am I a happy person? Yes. Am I fulfilled? Yes. Do I have joy? Yes. And peace? Yes. But it didn't come easily. I got married really early. I was a brainiac. Seems like the intelligence genes in our family ran really high. And I was in college when I was 16. I was in no way ready to be in college in every way but here. And I got thrown out before the year was over. I was just a wild preacher's kid. And I got married really early. Anybody other PKs in here? Yeah. Anyway, so I was married at 17. I had my first child 4 days before I turned 18. So I have a son 3 years younger than Chris. Scary, isn't it? My son is 47, my daughter's 44. And people used to come to the door and say, "Is your mother home?" And I'd say, "I am the mother." "What do you mean?" But my marriage, let's see, I had some words for this. I want to get it right. It was disappointing. It was unhealthy. It was not unsafe. This is a gentle, kind person. But it in no way nurtured me and allowed me to grow. But I had made a commitment to raise my children in a two-parent home. And so for 20 years I did that. And for 17 of those years, I was not satisfied. But I made a commitment. And so number one, sometimes personal sacrifice is right, because it's not all about me. And my children understood it when they were teenagers. They saw the situation. But later on, the thing they came back and thanked me for was my personal sacrifice so that they could have a two-parent home. And I'll never forget their gratitude over that. And it was sincere. Change is inevitable, and it's scary. And when the volcano blows, the volcano blows. And while my children were out of the country, when they were 17 and 19, one was in language school in Mexico City. One was on the Mercy ship in the Dominican Republic, helping people after a hurricane. I ran away from home, literally. I packed up a few boxes, had them shipped somewhere else. I drove to the airport in Jacksonville, Florida. I left my car at the airport, and this is almost 30 years later, and I don't even know what happened to the car. I got on a plane, and I left my car there. I don't know what happened to it. I never went back and checked. I'm surprised somebody didn't track it down and report me for something. But, you know, give me a parking ticket or something. But it was scary. But I knew if I told anybody, they'd try to stop me. And I was just done. So I moved across the country. I moved from St. Simons Island, Georgia, to Seattle, Washington. And I went to work for a company that Leon owned. So I married the owner of the company. Pretty fast, actually. But as you can see, we've beat the odds. And because, you know, odds for second marriages, especially when you jump right back into one like that, they're not high. But we've been blessed, and we worked hard at it. And this is for the rest of our lives. So, but there's a price for everything. I had always been loved unconditionally. My parents loved me unconditionally. My family is close. I'm the oldest of 6 children. There's 55 of us in our immediate family. We have to rent a place to go have a family dinner. I'd never been not liked. And all of a sudden I had 2 stepchildren that hated me. Their mother helped them. And it was 18 years before one of them came to me and said, "I'm so sorry. I've misjudged you. Can we make this right?" We're talking 18 years. So there's a price for everything. You know, there just really is. The next thing I want to tell you is that what you believe matters. I don't think we need to go through life in a vacuum, not knowing what we believe or why. I'm not going to tell you what to believe. It's not my job. I'm not your mother, and I'm not God. But if you don't know what you believe, if you don't have a foundation and a set of principles and a moral compass that guides you, stop, take time, and figure it out. And if you ask, you'll receive. So, it matters what you believe, because it becomes a rock, and it becomes a safe place for you and for your children. And the winds will blow, but the roots will hold you. You will not, you'll bend, but you won't break if your root system is good. That's my daughter, Melissa. And she's 44. She looks like she's about 24. She's got good genes. And she is a world-class musician. She has traveled the world. I homeschooled my kids, by the way. That's what Chris was talking about. We were just crazy bohemians. They arrested me for it one time. It wasn't legal back in the 80s. In fact, they arrested me twice. Yeah. But we had to go before governors' boards and testify, and they had to make sure my children were sane and I was doing okay. But then it became legal shortly after that in Georgia. So if you think homeschooling is something you just take for granted, trust me, somebody paid a price for you. But Melissa was living in the north of Sweden. My kids have traveled. They speak several languages. And she had an accident while she was over there. This is in 1995 or 93. I can't remember now. But she was injured pretty badly, and she came home, and there were years and years of surgeries and pain, and it was like watching a POW be tortured. I know the worst thing would be to lose one, but this was right up there next to it. In fact, she told me one time, I don't know if I can live like this anymore. And I said, if you're asking permission to ask if you can go, yeah, I don't want you to live like this either. But that's not what the answer was, thank God. But it got that bad, and it went on for years. And my sweet husband, I was telling Chris this the other night, he said, wow. My sweet husband, now we had made a lot of money with a company called Microrite that he owned. It was a point of sale system for mom and pop video stores. We'd made millions of dollars. The market changed. Netflix came out. There's little red boxes where you can rent stuff. The market went down. All of a sudden, hard drives were $179 at Sam's Club rather than the $2,000 we were packaging them with the barcodes and printers and blah, blah, blah. We didn't catch it coming, so the finances were on the way down. But what we had, because we spent a lot of money and we gave a lot of money away, but we had a good bit left. It took almost every dime of that to keep her alive. Health insurance denied the claims because it happened out of the country. And they said it was cosmetic. Hello. She has an artificial jaw now. It's made of chrome, cobalt blue, and titanium, and something else. But it's an artificial jaw. She's a rare recipient of such a thing. And you can look at her there. You can't tell. But now she can open her mouth. As little as Stephen's girlfriend or wife or whatever is. I think they got married. Precious little Kirsty. My daughter is 5'11", and she weighed that much. And we couldn't keep, we had squirting food in her mouth with a ketchup bottle. She couldn't open her mouth. And so that jaw is supposed to have lasted 15 years. It's been 16. So we want that to keep on lasting. But she still has dealt with years of surgeries and chronic pain. And, oh, my goodness, we thought, is she ever going to be able to think about getting married? Or, is life ever going to get normal here? But what I was going to tell you, Leon took every penny of what we had and spent it on her as though he were her father, because he felt like he was. And it happened 5 years ago. She had asked God for a particular kind of man at her age. And one of her stipulations, or requests, I should say, was she wanted a man who'd never been married, just something personal with her. And you know what? That's what she got. She got the most perfect husband for her 5 years ago. And you see who gave her away. It was my Leon. So I may have skipped over some points that I wanted to make here. No, the wind will blow. Yeah, it blew. Face the worst scenario. And that was when I said, God, you can take her. To me, that was the worst. And deal with it. It probably won't happen. So whatever you're facing, it probably isn't going to happen. No, it might, I thought I'd never get cancer. And I was sitting there in the doctor's office looking at a brochure. I didn't even tell anybody I was going for these tests. I didn't tell anybody because I thought, no big deal. And I saw this brochure that said 1 out of 4 women are diagnosed with breast cancer. And I thought, 1 out of 4? What if I'm that one? No. 5 minutes later, I was hearing the word carcinoma, blah, blah, blah. And the doctor said, do you want a tissue? I said, I don't have a cold. He just thought I was going to cry. And so he said, well, do you have any questions? I said, yeah, what are we going to do about this? And so he gave me the options, and I said, okay. And I went home and announced to my husband. And he was just horrified. Why did you tell me? I said, I didn't think it was going to be me. So you never know. Those odds might not be in your favor the whole, with everything, but they probably will be. But the wind might even blow harder. That company that was making the millions, the partner that we had in Seattle, he had been the programmer. We had been the sales arm. He took the software and said, you know what, I made it, it's mine. And he stole it. We didn't know anything about, where's the source code? We trusted him. And so later on, we had to become a dealer for him. And we had started the company with him. We had become a dealer to even have something to sell. And that left such a wound in Leon's heart. I thought he would never get over it. It's been 24 years. We haven't heard one word from him. And he flew to Myrtle Beach 2 months ago to take us to dinner and ask for forgiveness. We didn't have to do that. And Leon wasn't going to do it. And I said, we have to. We have to. But I'll tell you what, when we walked away, I said, we should have asked him for a check. Because at 60 years old, he's retired in an 8,000 square foot house and has 9 cars and motorcycles. I mean, he's set. He got the goods, the software. But nevertheless, that was a hard, hard blow. And then what we had left, we spent it on Melissa. And so we're starting over again. And we're 50-some years old. Well, at the very hardest part of this, I had a heart attack. And I had a kind of a blitz of a weekend, a really bad day, and a blitz of a weekend, and all of a sudden I was having 5 bypasses. I was having open heart surgery. And my last comment to the surgeon was, let's see, this is Friday. Can I be back to work on Monday? I thought he was going to do a little stent. He said, Mrs. Kalinda. And he points out on the screen, It looked like sausages tied up with strings, you know, where all the blockages were. I said, okay. But I was out in 6 days. And I was walking 3 miles on the beach. Let's see, November the 9th to Thanksgiving. So the third week in November, I was walking that far again. And in 3 weeks, I was back to work. Put a little cot in there so I could, you know, I wasn't working at home then. And, you know, you just roll with it. And then the breast cancer came later. But out of those ashes came my communications business, In Touch Solutions. And what I want you to see here is find a need and fill it. And that's what we're doing with Qzx920. When we were putting Micorite to bed, when it was breathing its last breath, we really had some obligations for warranties on the computer hardware. And so I looked for an answering service to take the calls. There wasn't one. I mean, voicemail. I wanted voicemail like we had in Seattle. It wasn't there. I called the phone companies. They didn't have it. You don't have plain vanilla voicemail? No. So the best thing I could do was a live operator service, and I had one of these big old pagers with a readout, and they would text out the message to me. Well, she inverted an area code from 305 to 503. That's the difference in Florida and Oregon. And I thought it was probably Oregon because we'd been doing business up there for so many years in the Northwest. I was just calling the wrong person, the wrong person, the wrong person. And the bottom line to that was there was one last sale that we had pending, and that was it. And we lost it because we didn't return the phone call. It was about $13,000. And I said, there's got to be an answer to this. This community needs something like we had in Seattle. And we began going, I went on a massive search. In the meantime, Leon had to file personal bankruptcy. Yeah, it got really bad. And he kind of got depressed and went to bed, leaving me, you know, to figure it out. And I started doing some research, and I said, Leon, this is what I found. See if you're seeing the same thing. And all roads led us to Salt Lake City, to a vendor there that had the most modern, up-to-date technology at the time of a voicemail switch. And we cashed in the last, whatever it was, SEP account, IRA, something. We had $80,000 left out of millions. And we cashed it in and took it and went to Salt Lake City and paid for that and brought it back to Myrtle Beach. And that's In Touch Solutions that still pays my bills 24 years later. So we found a need in the community, and we filled it. And it's still filling a need. If you come to Myrtle Beach and call any doctor's office after hours, you're going to hear me saying, thank you for calling Waccamaw Medical Center. Our office hours are 9 to 5, but blah, 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 blah. And it's just been a little niche that I've filled. And then when voice over IP came in, I can go nationwide, so I've done that. But it's boring. It's kind of boring. So that's when I got into internet marketing, because who could be bored with internet marketing, right? I mean, you would be driven crazy, but we're usually not bored. So, don't quit. At any point along the way, I could have quit. I could have said, I'm out of here. I could have said, I just think I'll be disabled for the rest of my life. I could have said any number of things. I give up. I'm going home to mama, you know. But the only way you lose is if you quit. So I don't want you to quit. I don't want you to quit, no matter what kind of wind is blowing. I don't know what's going on in your personal lives, but if I could sit down and spend a day with every one of you, I would. And I would encourage you. and I probably pray for you. And I can't, though, but I can give you this. That's the best I can do. I want to close with this. We've got 10 more minutes. There's great power in stories. And I want to tell you a story. This story is it's a story of real people in history. And the setting is 800 years BC. And that was a time when a large part of civilization was in the Middle East. The land was ruled by kings, and each king had a prophet or two. Now, this is from a book in history called The History of the Ancient Kings. And the king's name was Ahab. He wasn't a really good guy, but he was the king. And here was the deal. Have you ever heard the term, don't kill the messenger? Well, this is where this came from. Because the kings would tell their prophets or their seers, go figure this out, I'm having a problem. And they were supposed to go off and figure it out and bring back the answer. But if the king didn't like the answer, they would kill him. So you see the dilemma he was left in. He could either tell the truth as he saw it and risk his life, or he could just tell a lie. So it depended on the prophet's integrity, what he was going to do. Well, Ahab had been known to kill a lot of prophets. So there was this one in particular that he called on in a severe time of need at his location in the Middle East. And what was happening was a drought. Now, if we have a drought now, it's inconvenient. A few crops might not do as well, but it's not life-threatening. I mean, maybe some parts of the world, it's still life-threatening. I'm sure that it is, but I don't know where they are. But in my country, it's not life-threatening. We've got water stored up. We've got rivers dammed up. We've got crops stored. You know, we can import things. There's all kinds of ways for a drought not to be life-threatening. But back then, it was life-threatening. And lots of people died because a drought led to famine. And when there's no food or water, people die. So old King Ahab, he went to his prophet and he said, we need an answer on this, dude. You need to go away and come back with an answer. So the prophet did that. He got nothing. He was afraid to go tell him he got nothing, though, because he didn't want him to kill him. So he kept on asking, what's the answer? And he knew they needed rain. And he decided to expect an answer. And he began to live in a state of expectation, which changed things entirely. Now, I don't know, I can't tell you all the ethereal things about it. I don't know whether because he expected it, it came to him, or whether he was just told and, you know, I don't know. I don't know what happened. But all of a sudden, he ran back to Ahab and he said, go on and go home and have a party. Eat, drink, and be merry, the rain's coming. And he said, history records this, I hear the sound of a heavy rain. Now, there wasn't a cloud in the sky and there had been a drought for 3 years. Can you hear rain when you don't see it? Can you? No. I can hear it when it's coming. I can hear the thunder. I can see the lightning. I can hear it when it starts. But I can't hear it when there's not a cloud in the sky. I can't hear rain. But he said, I hear the rain. I hear the sound of a heavy rain. It was life-giving rain. So he told Ahab to go on and have a party. The rain was coming. Well, Ahab said, okay, but I think I need a little more evidence. You better go on back, get a little more information. Okay? So the prophet had a servant with him. You know how we always talk about having an assistant or a GM or something to help us? He had an outsourcer. he outsourced part of this deal. And he went off to the land somewhere. It doesn't say exactly where. But he told his assistant to run over to the sea and look and see if he saw clouds. So the guy went over there and he looked. Came back, he said, man, I got nothing. Now, he told him to go back and to go back. And every time, I don't know how far it was. That's not recorded either. But I imagine it was a day or so in between all this, and maybe a day to rest. He ran over to that spot 6 times and came back and said, I got nothing. The 7th time, he came back and he said, I see a cloud the size of a man's hand. Whoopee! That was all that the prophet needed to hear. He went back and told Ahab, I told you the rain's coming. I hear the rain. And it wasn't long, and they were deluged with rain. Now, a couple points on this to bring it home to you and your business. Number 1, live in a state of expectation. Number 2, I've experienced drought in my life and my business. Have you? You might be there now. It just might be a time of drought and famine for you now on some level. Financially, inside, your relationships, I don't know. But there is drought. And if you haven't had it yet, you will. The other thing I want you to take note of is when the prophet sent his GM over there to look, he sent him to the same place. He didn't say, oh, you didn't see it over there? Well, go down the desert this time and look. Oh, you didn't see it there? Well, there's a city over there. And let me bring this home to you even more. So you didn't have success with your online business? Well, why don't you just become an affiliate and buy all those WSOs and those courses about affiliate marketing? Okay, I think I'll do that. Oh, that didn't work? Well, let's run over here. Why don't we become network marketers? I mean, so-and-so said blah, blah, blah about that product, and ooh, I feel good. And yeah, then you're going to bug everybody to death that you know. But yeah, let's become network marketers. How about, I know, e-com. I can do e-com. And so do you find 6 different directions to go? Or do you have the sense enough to go back to where you knew you were called to work, but where you saw the vision first? You see what I'm saying? That guy went back 7 times to the same spot. So stop looking around. Stop buying shiny objects. Stop believing everybody who stands up and says they're a guru. There are no gurus. They're just people more compelling than the next. Chris has got the goods. He's not perfect, but none of us are. But he's given us a course to follow and a model to follow where we don't need to run to the desert and the cities and the mountains and look for other things. And I want you to say with me at the end here, I want you to answer me. Can you hear the rain? Can you hear it? Yes. Let me hear it again. Yes. Yeah, I hear it too. So if you think that you're in drought, and if you feel like there's a famine, you remember the story of Ahab, because there was a little tiny cloud that turned to a wild rainstorm because he went searching the same place and he stayed on track. And with that, I leave you. Thank you.
Wow. That's all I can say. Thank you so much. Amazing. All right, one more time, please. Seriously. All righty, so I got chills. That's good stuff.
Thank you for letting me do this.
Oh, are you kidding me? Of course. Well, you twisted my arm, so. Okay. So we're gonna take a quick 5-minute break. We're on a tight schedule here, so just 5 minutes. You got to pee, you got to drink, whatever, and then come right back to your seats. Okay?